Glenn Wright, PDA President, CEO. Excited to be here today with Craig Elliott, we've got a surprise for you during this podcast. So as will be announced today, there's a big change at PDA in leadership. I'm going to be stepping down from my role as President and CEO. For many of you, you know that I was diagnosed with breast cancer several years ago, went through surgery, and now I'm taking the medication tamoxifen to prevent reoccurrence. Has a really great rate of preventing reoccurrence. About December of last year, I let the executive committee know that I would need to step down from that role. Tamoxifen's great, except it makes you extremely fatigued, gives you headaches, makes you have significant brain fog, all of which I'm having. I'm having more of those symptoms, and part of that is around the stress and the workload of PDA. So, you know, for the good of PDA, I'm going to be stepping down. And so we began our search for a new PDA president and CEO, and I'm very excited to announce that Craig Elliott will be my replacement here at PDA. So Craig, welcome.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for the role. It's been a process to get here, but it's been really a very, very good process, and I'm excited to be here.
Great, fantastic. You know, Craig comes to us with an incredible background. Craig started in the industry as a microbiologist for Merck. Doing microbiology and auditing and chemistry, and then he moved on to get his finance degree, his MBA. So a microbiologist with a finance degree and MBA degree, boy, that's dangerous. And then he moved over to Covance to do finance at Covance, and quite successful there. Then Genentech came knocking, and Craig joined Genentech in finance for quality, and so that's great. And then PDA was lucky enough to pull him over into PDA.
Yeah,
I think it's how many years ago would that have been? That would have been
18
years ago.
Yeah.
And then he was here at PDA for a long time. And then he decided his kids were getting a little older, and he decided he needed to spend a little more time with his kids because PDA makes you travel a lot. And so he bowed out of PDA and to go and become an educator in Virginia. That county is Loudoun County, Virginia, where he's been for 9 years. You know, during that whole time, I stayed connected to PDA on the PDA audit committee. You know, we're a not-for-profit. We have an audit committee that reports to the board to make sure that the books are all clean and kept right. And then this opportunity came up. We had a huge number of candidates, great candidates, very qualified. Lots of interviews, right, Craig?
A lot of interviews,
17 total interviews for you.
Every member of the board of directors.
Yep, you know, and then the board chose to bring Craig on, and I'm really happy with that choice. Craig, you know, let me ask you about PDA. You know, I know you've always had a passion for it, right? You stayed connected. You worked on the audit committee. Tell me a little bit about what makes you passionate about PDA. What is it that makes you passionate?
Yeah. I think for me, it's the connection, building that connection with people in the industry. I think, you know, when I went to Genentech, I was always involved in PDA kind of as a member, but it really got secured when it kind of ingrained in me when I went to Genentech, and two of the vice presidents that I supported from a finance position either were chairman of the board here or became chairman of the board here, and I was like, really, the same organization that I'm a member of PDA? Oh, wow. And so it kind of really brought in that sense of community that where I met someone, you know, outside of a conference, outside of a committee or something that,
absolutely,
like, wait a minute, you're the chairman of the board of PDA? And okay, so I think it's that sense of community, and then the shared, you know, the shared vision, that sense of ownership and trying to advance the pharmaceutical technology. And so, you know, as part of that, you know, working with some of the members at a company in a professional sense outside of PDA was like super valuable. And that was one of the ways that, you know, I started getting brought into more of the PDA operations through that. And so those connections, I think, are just invaluable. They've fostered my career, you know, and helped, you know, help my career out personally, professionally. So PDA's been involved in my life for, at least 2 or 3 decades. So it's a fantastic organization, and I'm just, you know, couldn't be more excited to.
Yeah, you know, and I know we had a chance to talk a little bit about members, and you know how passionate you are about members, helping them to achieve their goals, and really helping them to really impact the industry in positive ways. And you know, you're just a perfect fit for the role. You know, when you think about it, we got a scientist who's also a finance guy, who also is an educator, right, with a background in education. You know, those things really make you an ideal candidate for this role. And you know, before you left PDA, one of your last roles, you spent about a year down in education.
Yeah,
so you know, not only in finance at PDA here, I think you were here about 9 years.
Yeah,
about 9 years. 9 years. You know, and really that's just fantastic. So someone with a deep understanding of PDA, what makes our organization special, importance of the member, importance of advancing science. Again, just a fantastic fit for PDA. You know, for me, I'm going to stick around a little bit. I'm going to be kind of in the background, assisting and really being an advisor, whatever Craig needs me to be. I'm going to take on a role of CEO Emeritus here at PDA, so you'll still see me around occasionally. And again, you know, the desire here is that we really make this transition smooth for PDA. I know Craig's committed to that. I'm committed to that. I love this organization. I really wish I could. I told Craig, I'm like, man, I would love to do this job for 10 more years, right? And unfortunately, you know, based on that therapy, I'm just not going to be able to do that. But the great thing is I still am cancer-free. So I'm still cancer-free. You know, it's preventative, but it's important. So I'm going to focus on that. But I will still be involved in PDA. I'm going to work part-time for PDA to make sure this transition happens well.
I'm grateful for that. So I think that will make the transition, I mean, so much smoother. And you know, that's fantastic that you're going to offer up that time to do that. So I will be picking your brain, you know, and you know, it's just that continuity. I think it's good for the staff, it's good for the organization.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't want a disruption. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
While I feel like, you know, there's some benefit because I worked here before, I can hit the ground running. A lot has changed in 9 years, and a lot's changed with the industry. I mean, so like just getting up to speed with the rapid change of the industry is a huge task. I mean, from you know, manufacturing has shifted. You got all the peptides coming out now, and all the.
It really is. It's a totally
like,
different,
I mean,
totally different world, right?
Yeah. And coming from the education, I hear the kids are all into the peptides and like, oh, these injectables and all this stuff, and I'm like, you know where you're getting that from? You know, so, you know, at the end of the day, even though the industry changes, at the end of the day, we've got to get a sterile product into that same glass vial under the same regulatory conditions that we have, and it's, you know, that's what I feel like is our job, is to make sure that's happening safely and to, you know, to instill that in the community.
And I didn't point it out, but you know, in education, you were science. Teaching science, you were the department head for science. So again, that, you know, that passion for science, you can just kind of feel it, right, and see it, and you know, and that's really important. So you know, Craig, any last comments before we close this one out?
I would just say, you know, it's exciting. I feel like I'm coming back home because I spent, you know, 8 years here, and you know, I was just thinking, you know, my kid. I just walking into the building again, to the office again. I just pictured, like, my kids used to run up and down the halls as toddlers here. I feel like I was kind of raised here a bit, so it's really like a homecoming. And you know, I love the organization. I love the commitment, the values, and I'm just looking forward to, you know, supporting the membership and the vision and the mission of PDA to, you know, keep advancing the pharmaceutical industry in the right direction. And that's what we got to do. We've been doing it for 80 years.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we got to keep it going.
Yep. Hey, I think you got the greatest job in the world. So, hey, thanks for stopping by and taping this special Glenn and Friends section. So, hey, to you.
Cheers to PDA. Thanks, Glenn.